So I also thought it'd be felt like there's something missing, and I really didn't want to make a spoon. So I brought my matting out. I thought, ooh, that'll be cute. So if you have a propensity for doodling or spirographing, as I do, it's a good thing, because now you have a craft you can use it all up in, torn up teacups. So never ever do you have to feel that you've wasted your time on a piece or a work, because you have a craft that can take you and make it into something magical. All right, so let's try it on some different backgrounds using some different pieces that we've made. All right, here we have this beautiful Prussian blue background, and I loved it and made it because I thought, so this is some rice paper with some spirograph that I did straight on the paper. I put it on and I did the spirograph and it worked. Use a black Sharpie marker. These are the pen ones. They have a longer tip so they fit in the spirograph. This would be great on here. The only thing is if you were to apply it directly, it would get very dark and kind of mid-tone. So that's why we had to take that extra step and apply our rice paper and tissue paper to a white background and then place, because then we'd have that really good, clear, warm pop of color to contrast, like this, let's say, on that blue. So we're going to apply the same madness and just get a shape. So this is a slightly smaller piece of paper, so you know what? We're going to get a 2 for going. We're going to split it up in half. There we go. Like so. All right. So got some beautiful warm paper here. I'm just going to do a quick shuffle through my selection. I've got a lot of collage fodder because I was trying to figure out what to use and what would stand out. So this was a watercolor map of Canada that I have since gone over with acrylic ink in the red stamps, and then I did some just crazy chaos layers. So this will be what we use because it's a little bit more fun than this one, but never get rid of it, right? Now you've got lots of options. Okay, pencil, there we go. Bumping, okay. So we are on a smaller piece of paper, so just so we keep it reasonable. And there are a lot of different ways to draw teacups, friends. There's a lot of classes out there. This is just your basic upside down shape. Liz Steele is on Instagram. She does a lot of architectural watercolors, but during the pandemic she did a journal of teacups. If you want to learn teacups, go visit her blog. She's actually got a printable you can download, and it gives you sort of a schematic for how to draw them from scratch. I'm not going to violate any copyright rules. So I'm going to show you how to do this if you didn't want to cut or, trace right on the art side like I recommend. Just tear a little bigger than you'd want. You do run the risk of wasting paper because now, of course, you've got to tear it closer to the shape, right? But everybody has their own threshold for what is waste and what is part of doing it, right? Just do your best to not be deliberately wasteful. There we go. Ooh, I love that. It's a little big. That's okay. Maybe just a smidge smaller. So I'm just gonna tear. Now all of these teared bits that I'm tearing, I'll upload an example from this class from last year. I saved them and then I collaged them as wallpaper stripes in the background of a piece. All right, so this is a piece from last year, and as you can see here, these stripes in the paper in the background create kind of a scene or a table, are collaged on watercolor paper in matte medium. Definitely matte medium. You cannot use a glossy medium whatsoever. If you do, you won't be able to go over top of it, and I find the shine is really distracting. So this was done with glue, so I just saw that lift. But this here is just watercolor that I've added along the saucer to create shadows so that it didn't just look like floating teacups. But this is what it can look like without a background. It's still very beautiful and simple, but you've really got to love that cup standing out by itself in order to do that. All right, so So save these. They can be applicable. There we go. So that fits it a little bit better. I like that. Now, if we wanted a matching color instead of, let's say, our trusty doily, I do have smaller ones. Could feasibly go ahead and just kind of pop that on there, right? And if I didn't want to paint this, I could definitely at this point start making use of my paint pens and Cat on Dash to add color to it in unique ways instead of just painting it all out. So that's one option. Yeah, and you kind of, you have to play around with placement and really spend some time looking at your teacup. Get yourself a saucer out, stare at it in your house. Where does it sit? Because that saucer intersecting with the cup line really does have a bit of an impact. So spend some time. So if we were going to use this instead of the doily, and you wanted it to be quick, just use the doily as your template. Okay, there we go. Right. Now, you could go back and sort of flute this edge, right? Tear it up a little bit. So we've got that continuity between cup and saucer. But don't feel you have to. This isn't a real life representation of a saucer. I think the shape is universal enough that if you keep your colors and your patterns within reason, it's going to be a universally recognized image. People will know that is a cup and saucer without you having to like guide them to the notion of it. There. You got a fun little strip for something else, right? You can see if it would work well as a handle. I kind of like my handles to be a little bit more of a 90-degree curve, so I'm going to come in here and just remake it so it's a little deeper. Again, you could just draw your own handles if, oops. Make sure you draw, you know, create the handle in the shape of the cup. I got backwards there. All right. There we go, that idea. Okay, so that's one option, using, you know, just paper, no tissue paper collaged on there, not a speck of matte medium entered into this creation, and you would go in with your two-sided tape and tape it down. And yeah, before you go ahead and tape it, play. And you could take photos and play if you find that you're having a really hard time just getting a handle on the visualizing of it. Take a photo, go do some laundry or something, come back to it, see if that photo still compositionally makes sense to you. Don't worry about composition rules. You've got to like it. It's got to feel good to you. So if you're not feeling it, then you're not feeling it. All right, let us try. I had a fun little piece I wanted to show you. Now, if you didn't have watercolor paper and you wanted to do this class, I would just recommend you have a heavy piece of paper to do it on, but you could cover up just regular copy paper and acrylic paint. This one happens to be a beautiful kind of shiny orange, and you get a very decent layer too. Now, the nice thing about the copy paper is it's not going to disappear like the rice paper. It will definitely maintain its white color as you add the matte medium to it, if you wanted to do it directly onto the page. But you could just use a glue stick and absolutely glue this on and not have to go that tape route. Right, beautiful juicy cup. Added in a little salsa, right? Make it a little handle. There you go. Just some options and ideas that you could play with. I'm going to finish putting some down with some two-sided tape, but I just wanted my friends who aren't necessarily using everything we're using to know that you don't have to. All right. I do really like this one on here, so we're going to keep that. And then I think I want to show you this one on there with maybe a fun little saucer. Let's see. Just digging through my bag of goodies. So we painted some mini ones in a nice blue. Now, is that too much blue on blue? Another chaos layer I have is this one. See, this is where you could get lost in endlessly playing with ideas, right? But I really like a strong, okay, so that's not gonna work there. So torn it down just a smidge, just to make it a little bit more manageable. Start small. Sometimes even the half size of the 9x12, 6x9 is a bit overwhelming. So tear it down to card size and start with just working with simple shapes, right? Kind of working with oval shapes, square shapes, and flat ellipticals. Nice. Then maybe this does saucer duty, and we have a side cup scene. Yes. There we go. Right? Love that. Okay, let's try it. Let's commit. So we're going to tape that down. Okay. Just pull your glue out, two-sided tape. If you wanted to use a hot glue gun for this, you absolutely could as well. There is no right or wrong way to get it to stick, as long as you remember what layers you're putting it on, right? That's why I like the dry collage. All right. Oh, like this way. Right there along the edge. And then this right there. Okay, we'll give it a little handle. Might be a bit fat and juicy for a handle, but I don't mind. I don't mind. And you've got to give yourself the opportunity to play with a class. We all love to take classes and do the thing and hope that it is perfect in that one shot. And I am guilty of that as well. But practice makes improvement, right? There we go. Beautiful. All right. A little bit of gold paint pen. I wish they lasted forever, eh? It's okay. And your little base there. I'm going to let my chisel tip do the work for me and just press down and not worry about getting too illustrative or designy. Add some dashes of interest here and there. What other color can I add? Maybe a little bit of pink. So you can definitely do this class with an idea in mind, but I definitely suggest you leave a lot of wiggle room for yourself because you will have lots of ideas. And if you're too rigid about what you expect, you may not have as much fun as you could. So that is one example of that. I'm going to show you on this one. This one's a really fun chaos layer. There is no tissue paper on top. Okay. There we go. A little bit more of a, say, Nordic teacup IKEA vibe, or coffee even. If you're a coffee lover and you want to do torn up coffee cups, by all means, definitely doable. See, I like that orange on there because then it makes it really juicy and stand out. Now, if you didn't want to tear up your saucer edge, you don't have to. That would definitely create a really nice, you know, division of texture in the look. It is entirely up to you. And if you're finding yourself way too fiddly, which is easier with cards because of course they don't fit in the matting, pop your matting down and just kind of see, okay, what actually stays when this gets plopped on, what goes, right? Really like that. Here's a fun little, right? And when you're tearing, you almost create for yourself, if you're cautious, the handle. Okay. Like I said, just remember which way you're putting your handle on as you tear. And I'm just going to kind of create like a sloping line there. Right. Ooh, nice. Beautiful. I love that. I do love it with the white as well, though. If you're really, like, the doily layer is something you really want to maintain, then you can. Let's see, are these dry? Ooh, you know what? These are dry. These are the ones I did briefly in the getting stuff ready section of the video. That'd be nice. Let's try that. So, now, here's something a little fun. Because the doily is so round, it kind of skews the perspective just a bit, and I don't like that, like, ka-chop. So what I did in the demo piece to kind of circumvent that shape I wasn't so keen on behind the cup here was tore my doily in half and then kind of shrunk the shape to more of an elliptical size. And then when I place it on, it's more believable. The eye's not struggling with the proportions so much. Right? Okay, so we're gonna do this, get our double-sided tape. Now, I'm wondering, do I want any pattern work in the background? You can wait until the end, which is maybe what I'll do. All right. But this is where you, the artist, get to really come in and shine. Do I want patterns in the background? Do I want it straight up? Do I want, you know, busyness? Do I want to suggest early morning energy over coffee or tea? Do I want to suggest more of the tea time chill vibe that is sort of associated with tea time? That is all you. Your color schemes, if you want to do all neutrals, definitely. I would say if you really liked simplicity, keep it to 3 colors. Do a warm, a cool, and a mid-range. So I always stick with like a pink, a blue, and a yellow, because from those 3 colors you can make anything. I don't use red because red can end up very dark. Last year I used a lot of red versus pink, and I just found that the work seems a lot heavier. It's still really good. I'd say it's got a more masculine Mars type energy, for lack of a better way to say that. Whereas I wanted the teacups to be a bit more of a party vibe this year without being pink. Pink is great, I love pink, but just wasn't the vibe I was looking for. Smoosh that down. Okay. So shrink your shape. There we go, some placement on. Okay, again, if you're not sure, bring your mat in, get everything where you want it to be. Right there, I think works for me. Dead center is not advisable. Generally, offside to one side, rule of thirds. is a good way to gauge. But again, you do you. If you want it in the middle, you want it in the middle. That's okay. It's you and your art. This is a great way to use up your children's old art. You could take it on the white paper, you know, put some matte medium on it, especially if it's all done in permanent marker, and then stick it to watercolor paper as I have done, and then that way you can tear it up and create like a fun teacup. I'm trying to think, my son is very prolific. He's on the ASD spectrum. He's 12, he draws nonstop all day, shock, shock. But I think it would be kind of fun to take some of his work and do this with it, and put the crazy comics he does on like a teacup. Oh, you know what? I need my little piece that reminds me of where things are living. Okay, so I do kind of want to, there we go. Oh, I love that. Okay, now I want to have some fun creating some patterns. Nothing too much, because I actually really do love these chaos layers. They started out as a content reel for acrylic ink, and then after I smooshed them with some acrylic paint, I was like, oh, I love it, oh my gosh. And it was really hard to tear it up today, but it was totally worth it. All right, so let's say you were feeling it still just needed a bit of something, something. You could do paint pens. I'm gonna show you how to have some fun with your Neocolors should you happen to have them. So these work really good wet or dry. I love them. If you've taken my Dream Trees class, you can use them to make your trees. You just give it a little, you can use them dry, but I like it, that little bit of dreaminess. Let's do some stripes. See how that's not quite firm? And then as we go across, you can see it getting a little drier again. So it just adds a little something, something. Takes it from floating teacup to maybe sitting on a table in a room with white and blue wallpaper. Nice thing about these is they're very smudgeable. Again, they're permanent, so you can varnish over top of them. I would recommend, if you're a heavy-handed varnisher, to finish it first with some Kamar varnish or something like a fixative like Spectrafix, just so stuff's not moving as you brush. But I think once you've made that mistake enough times, you sort of get a little bit of a lighter touch. I know I have. There we go. Beautiful, I love it. Let's try seeing some of them. Right, beautiful in that matting. And you can kind of decide how much of what you want to keep and how much of what you can go. You can add a spoon, you could add sugar cubes, you could add, like we did in that first one, a little flower blossom on the side. There are lots of options. So definitely don't just stop at creating what I've shown you today. Dive in, explore, find some things that work for you. If you really like this look, all you have to do is red stamped roses, or create some red roses on your tissue paper or rice paper, and some green leaves, let it dry, and then collage it onto white watercolor paper. That is how you get that beautiful kind of wedding rose pattern. These gold stripes were done after the fact. I didn't want them diminished by the matte medium, so once that piece of collage paper, it looked like this before, but it was just white, was totally dry, and I torn it out. Then I went over top with my chisel tip to add the details. That way they'd stay nice and shiny, because the matte medium does unfortunately dull down a little bit of that shine in the collage layer. Yeah, so this has been a lot of fun. I hope you have enjoyed learning how to make torn up teacups. You have lots of collage fodder, I'm sure, to use, or like I say, don't be afraid to explore what you might have on hand. Here are some other options. that I did. So don't be afraid. Dig through that collage fodder pile or create your own. Make it brand specific. If you have a specific logo or a specific shape that you like to use with your studio, get that out, get it stamped on something. If you don't want to use a collage layer on your background, feel free to just do it on a white background. Very impactful as well. So if you've enjoyed taking this class with me, please let me know. Send me a DM. You can review it on Etsy, or you can follow me on Instagram. Definitely check out www.mayalarsonstudio.ca. My linker tree is there as well, with lots of different things that I am doing and busy with. So I hope to see you sharing your work using the clash hashtag #TornUpTeacups, and have a fabulous spring, friends.